My friends, there is something you should know about me. Something very, very personal. My favorite episode of Seinfeld is an episode called The Red Dot, where George buys Elaine this beautiful cashmere sweater. Maybe you've seen it. He thinks he's getting a great deal. It's marked down to just $85. Beautiful cashmere sweater, but marked down because it has on it the tiniest little red dot, and he thinks she'll never notice. Well, he gives Elaine the sweater. She says, "Thank you, I love cashmere." She's just gushing over it until the second she puts it on, and Kramer shouts out, "Yeah, but what about that red dot?" And then it's all she can see, and all she can focus on. And I thought about that episode this week because in a way that's what happens in this week's Parashat. You understand where the Jewish writers of Seinfeld got it from. What happens in this week's reading? Remember, by the way, the Jewish people have been rescued by God from slavery in Egypt, have been given the Torah, have been brought through the desert in this miraculous way. Dayenu, it should have been enough. Yet here we are. We look into this week's Parashat and we see not a shred of awareness of all those blessings, not a shred of gratitude for any of it. Instead, what are they focused on? The red dot. Verses 4 and verses 5 in chapter 11. I'm going to read for you these verses because you might not believe me otherwise. The chutzpah of our people. Vayivchu gam b'nei Yisrael, and the people of Israel began to cry. They're crying, folks. Why? Mi'achilenu basar. If only we had a little bit of better barbecue out here in the desert, some basar. Zacharnu et hadaga asher nochal b'Mitzrayim. We remember the fish that we got to eat in Egypt. Oh, it was the best fish back when we were slaves. And the melons, and the leeks, and the garlic, and the spices. Oh, the food we used to eat, Moshe, the food out here, it's terrible. Yeah, we get that you saved us from slavery. We get that you split the sea, God. We get that you're taking us to the promised land, but this food out here, oh, it's a travesty. And in that sea of miracles that they were surrounded by in the desert, don't forget they were eating manna, which is quite literally a miraculous food. Could be better. Can't resist. There is an old Jewish joke. I think it comes from this moment in the Torah as well. Waiter comes to the table. Some of you are nodding your heads. End of a meal. Older Jewish couple. He doesn't say, as is the standard practice, "So, folks, was everything all right?" Instead, he looks worried. He looks terrified. He says, "So, was anything all right?" I bring it all up, my friends, because there is a timeless lesson embedded within this parasha, and it's timeless, and we know it, but still, we need the reminder. It's why we have to read this parasha again and again every year, because we live in a world where it's all too easy to only see the red dots, even on a cashmere sweater. We live in a world of is everything, not of is everything all right, but of is anything. Is anything all right? We live in a world where there is so much to be troubled by. I spoke last week about Israel and about the rise in anti-Semitism. What's going on in our country through this week, the explosion of hatred that we've seen, it's troubling beyond measure. And if it's not that, that's bugging you, certainly. In all of our personal lives, too, we carry a lot on our hearts when we walk into this sanctuary. We deal with drama, we deal with conflict, we deal with families, we deal with service, we deal with health concerns. I don't minimize that. I don't discount any of that, not for a second, and I'm not saying we should ignore it either. I'm not even saying that we shouldn't kvetch about it at times like our ancestors did, because if you're blessed to have a person in your life, a spouse or a friend who will listen to you when you just need to let it all out, we know how cathartic and how helpful that can be. But still we remember If there's a lesson in this parasha, and our Torah says it again and again, our Torah tries to hit us over the head with it in ways that are subtle and in ways that are very forceful and explicit, the red dot, it's never the whole sweater. And in a world of is anything all right, there really are still some things that are all right. And there are blessings. And there are small miracles that are to be found if you can open your eyes in the right way and see them. Look on our wall. I love the fact that these 3 Hebrew words in particular are there on our wall. For those watching on the live stream, it's a reminder every time we walk into this building that we need Ashrei Yoshvei Veitecha. Happy are those who dwell in God's house. What's the definition of happiness? You want to be happy? You don't need to go out to Barnes & Noble and buy 50 self-help books. You don't need to download 100 books onto your Kindle about how to be happy. In Judaism, it's very simple. I'll give it to you in one line because that's how our sages present it. Actually, in 2 words. Hasomeach bechalko. Can you find joy in what you do have? In a world where news media outlets are going out of their way to tell you everything's falling apart, to show you every red dot that's out there in the universe, and at times we do feel that way, but in a world too where we know companies are spending trillions of dollars, trillions, to do everything they can to convince you of what you don't have, what you need to be happy still. Someach bechalko. Can you as a Jew find a little joy in the gratitude that wells up in your heart from the simple blessings, even the simple stuff in your life and those you love? In so many ways, we get that message as Jews. From the fact that modeh, thankful, is the very first word we're supposed to say when you wake up in the morning. And if you don't have the practice of saying modeh ani, try it for 10 days, then send me an email. If your life hasn't improved, I'll be surprised. Really. And we say modeh first. We say thankful first and ani second, I second. Because me and everything that I want and I need and I want to control and I think should be in this world, let that come second to the fact that I woke up another day and I'm taking a breath. And that I'm alive. And that I can enjoy whatever I can appreciate today. You know it also from the fact that we're called Yehudim. Yehudim. Jews. Comes from the Hebrew word todah, thank you. How can it be in this world that a people who spent thousands of years in exile, thousands of years of persecution and anti-Semitism that persists to this very day, our name is gratitude? It's wild. But here we are. We're honest about the problems. We see the red dots too. Yes, we do. But we know the gifts as well. And the gifts give us the strength to keep moving, to keep journeying through that wilderness, just like our ancestors did. You know, I'm very blessed as a rabbi to meet a lot of people, a lot of great and strong people. I want to share with you a 94-year-old man who I love very dearly. And he spends his day in doctors, 3 doctors a day, 4 doctors a day, facing a lot. And I'd always say to him, how you doing? How you doing, Herbie? And he'd tell me about all the doctors going from one appointment to the next. And then he'd say with his smile, but I'm not complaining, I'm just explaining. And he had days that were hard, and he had some days that were a lot harder, I'm sure. But he knew what he had, in addition to what he didn't have. And it gave him the strength that he needed, and a strength that I pray we can all find. My friends, it is Memorial Day weekend. I'm speaking about gratitude, and I want to remind us too, as I close, that so much of gratitude isn't just knowing what to be thankful for in our own lives. It's also knowing, and we have to know it this weekend, but I hope we know it all the time, to be thankful for the work in this world that others do. The sacrifices that others are making day in and day out that we don't always stop to appreciate. We forget. We get busy with the ani, with the I. What am I doing? And we forget the modeh, the thankfulness, to look around and say, as we should this Shabbat, but all the time, the brave men and women, some in our families, some who were just mentioned a few moments ago, some who we don't know, get up every morning and put their lives on the line. Think about that. Put their lives on the line so that we can sit here on a Shabbat and worship in freedom and peace and safety. We're blessed in this country. So if you're listening, if you've served our country, if you know of someone who has and you're holding them close this weekend, this Shabbat, let me say it for all of us. Modeh ani. Thankful are we for their service. My friends, this Shabbat we have a parsha that could be called the Parsha of the Kvetch. Because all the Jewish people can think about is how with all of the miracles around them, the fish was a little better in Egypt. Are you wearing a cashmere sweater in life, but staring at the red dot? Are you journeying with God, receiving manna from heaven, but complaining that it doesn't taste quite right? Or can you know what it means to take moments, if only on Shabbat, our day that's supposed to be a day of reminding us of blessings? Ashrei yoshvei veitecha. Happy am I for what I do have in front of me, around me, within me, the small miracles that keep us alive and the people who we love who keep us safe. Well, let's let that leave us, I pray, if only for now, with a smile, with a sense of peace and well-being and security, and a yearning as we continue our prayers and then we go out into the rest of this day and look around at our lives and look up at the heavens, even on a rainy day, even a rainy weekend, and find the courage to say, and the spirituality to say, Modeh ani. Thank you, God. So Shabbat Shalom, everybody.